Unakusheo, mi people them. Hello, 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 and hi. My name is Leeann Risk, and I am a certified sexuality educator. Have been in the field of reproductive and sexual health education for the past 15 years. And I am also the country director for an NGO called the Mama Pikin Foundation that mainly focuses on maternal and child health, which is also directly related to reproductive and sexual health. So, yeah. And you are?
Hi, Leeann. I'm Doreen. I work in public relations and communications. I am someone who has sex, enjoys sex, and regularly educates myself and people to have better sex.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're having sex, girl. And
we
we're
are
years
we're years apart.
I want to talk to you a little bit about consent and what your understanding of consent is in communications and intimate relationships, which is, of course, we know is crucial. I mean, relationships die because of a lack of intimacy and communication.
Yeah.
So, how has your generation, which is not that far from my generation, I just want people to know that. I don't even think it's that deep. But anyway, how has your generation, or I would say your particular age group of folks, how have you all emphasized these aspects? And what are your thoughts on fostering respectful and consensual relationships? What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, that's a loaded question.
It is. I didn't write it.
Okay, so from my understanding of consent is just basically yes or no. It is yes and no. It's me telling you I want this, knowing what I want, and communicating it to my partner or whoever I am in a sexual relationship with. And not just sexually, consent is
It's a general
spread.
term.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's spread. So, but when it comes to intimate relationships, I feel like because of the it's not gentrification, but then it's the globalization of the world and the way that technology has improved. There's TikTok, there's so many platforms where sex educators also come on board to talk about consent and sex. I feel like my generation now is having a different view on this back from your generation.
Way back.
Yeah. So I feel like we're having different view on this and we're being educated.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, when I was younger,
That was yesterday.
but I know that back then consent was different. Men would think, although it's still happening, but men would think saying no is you saying yes.
Yeah.
But now when I say no to a man, they'll be like, okay, fine. Like, let you knock out all that thing right now. Let you knock out with rape, let you knock out with this or that.
Yeah.
So they know that there are consequences to not understanding me, to not adhering to my consent, to me saying no and yes. So I guess that's it. There's a mild difference now.
Yeah.
An improvement, basically.
Exactly. I mean, I also want to say on the topic of consent is that, you know, people have to understand what it is, you know, in order for it to be utilized in the way that it should be utilized. You're an educated person. You understand the general concept of consent. But many people don't even know or feel powerless, right? We still have people like that. We're in Sierra Leone, like a country like this, where even in 2024, we still have people who do not feel like they have power enough to say yes or no, even if there was a question asked. And most times there's not. It's just, you know, you just seeing an action and saying and reacting and saying no, I don't want this. Or yes, I want this. And also knowing that the yes should be enthusiastic.
Yes.
It shouldn't be a reluctant yes.
Like,
It
okay,
shouldn't
we're
be
fine.
it shouldn't be silence. I mean, people interpret consent in different ways, which is why what you're saying is great, because you're like, it's either a yes or a no. But we don't speak like that in real life.
Yeah, that is true.
You know?
And consent is a gray area, basically, because I remember talking about this on my podcast. It was the gray area of consent. And one of my guests came up with this scenario wherein they say if like a woman had been clubbing all night, got drunk, And a man would think that is a way for him to take advantage and say, oh, you were drunk, so I thought you wanted it.
Yeah.
I also, during the podcast, I also came up with this. There was this show that I watched where they had consensual sex, but the lady consented to condom use.
Yeah.
And he removed it mid-sex.
Right.
So
which makes
that
it
is
no longer consensual.
Yes, exactly, because she consented to sex with a condom, safe sex, and she not consent to having diseases or getting pregnant.
Right.
So that is like the gray area of this.
It's the same thing. Like if I were to consent to having vaginal sex and then you went and tried to have anal sex with me, I didn't consent for anal sex.
Yes, exactly.
So it's something that has to be fluid. It's something that has to be like continuous. It's all ongoing conversation. And not all like one cinema.
Yeah.
I go ask you, and that means it's an umbrella. It don't cover all things way possible. It's not.
Exactly.
That's not how consent works.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's something that I think a privilege is attached to it. Is my point. Like I feel like you and I are in a more privileged place in our lives compared to any other person in walking around in Sierra Leone or even other places. Like for example, almost quote unquote, which I hate this term, but this is how we call it, kresuman, and we dey see we get belly. You not kresuman. Everyone knows say you not kresuman. It is not a secret. But you get man them nanet where they go follow this woman, yeah. Then we belly come out. Yeah, this woman, you don't make person go follow. I mean, the way we even talk about it.
Yeah.
Even with someone who's mentally incapable of doing that, there's no way that kind of person could give consent.
Yes.
Just like there's no way a 5-year-old girl could give consent.
That's true. That's true.
You understand? There's no way a student can give consent to a teacher. Like that's really not how it's supposed to go. Like if you really follow consent, those are things that you understand govern the whole, because that's a system of authority. Yes. And anytime you have authority, it limits your ability to use consent because you're in fear of whatever the consequence is. And I think living in a place like Sierra Leone, it magnifies it a lot more than it does in other like more developed nations. But it happens all the time, everywhere, every day. So I think we are privileged. I think both generations who are at the level that can understand consent and use it and be able to even garner someone's understanding of that. And also anybody where they try to get sex with you at this point, they know that you are a professional. They know that you're in this field. They think you're a feminist. So they know if I force this woman a problem for me.
Yes, exactly.
But then go know that for force. You understand my point?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
like you know who to try. That's what I can tell people that all the time. Like, you know, thief man know that for thief.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I mean, why they walk out na streets and they ever answer me phone. I like they call me 1 million times and they pull me phone on me bag. Why they walk out? Pastor reach, I pull me phone because thief man know that for thief. That's how I see it. Anyway, moving on.
So, what do you think of society's views on sexual? So, what are your views on society's views on sexual expression? Have they changed since your generation? I don't. Should we be using that word?
I'm gonna kill Caleb for that.
So, since your generation and now, have you seen changes, improvements on the way that we view sexual expression?
Yeah. Yes and no, but more yes, which gives me great joy. And I just also, as an educator, I got to put on my educator hat a lot of times because words like sexual expression, I don't know that everyone understands what that word really means. And a lot of times people put that word and kind of mix it up with other words like sexual identity or gender identity or sexual orientation, and all of those are different. And I just want to make it clear that it's not the same as those things. So sexual expression is how you express yourself outwardly, right? It's an outward, external way of you expressing what you want to portray. Sometimes it's true to who you are and sometimes it's not. And a lot of times when it is not true to who you are is because you are in a place of fear where you cannot be who you truly want to be, where you cannot express how you want to express, for fear of loss of income, for fear of loss of respect, for fear of loss of housing or stability or comfort, security, all the things that human beings craves, right? So if I'm afraid of those things, and again, living in Sierra Leone, that's why I said yes and no. Because there's a lot of young people who would love to express themselves differently sexually, but cannot. And there's this really cool pictorial diagram that I use in the classroom a lot to discuss and to show people the difference between sexual orientation, sexual expression, and gender identity. And biological sex, and it has it's called the gingerbread person. Anyway, but it has a scale. And so for sexual expression, the scale is masculine, feminine, and then in the middle it's androgyny or androgynous, which means it's hard to tell. The person shows up and, so even today, I'm a little androgynous, right? I think I walk that line, even though people clearly see that I'm a woman. I hope. Sometimes you don't. It's okay. But today, I hope, because I'm wearing a dress. You caught me on the day I'm wearing a dress. That's one dead giveaway. I'm holding a purse. I have some lip shine on my lips. I have a head tie. So I think those are some dead feminine giveaways, right? But I have tennis shoes on, right? That's not really feminine. But my comfort comes first. At my age, my generation.
Yes.
So I tend to express myself in a way that I can play a little bit on both sides, but I am more feminine, right? But there are people who play with that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's fine. You know what I'm saying? But is it true to you? Is it true to who you feel you are inside? Is it connected to your gender identity? And your gender identity is not external, it's internal. So knowing those things, being able to match things that they match or they know they match, and really who's putting that pressure on us to match? Exactly. Where does that pressure from society come, where if you're not woman, you for wear dress, you for wear lipstick, you for wear high heels, for wear sandal, for wear crepe, why you always wear crepe? All these things that come into play. But I do love the fact that, more and more women dress like me. A lot of them are thinking about comfort versus hurting themselves. And
comfort now.
And going through life with bunions and all kind of accidents because you can't walk on these Freetown streets. And we know how our Freetown streets are. Them high heel there. Hey, Bobo, I don't see many a tragedy. But that's not me. Anyway. So I say that to say is that I do feel like more people are getting there, but I also feel like there's still a long way to go. Many people cannot actually fully express their they can't express themselves sexually because of limitations of society and all of that. So we've grown a little bit, but I mean not that drastically.
Yeah, we're still there at a slow pace, basically.
Yeah. The role of technology in intimate relationships has evolved. Yes, it has. How has your generation managed to into the integration of technology in the realm of sexuality? How have you integrated tech into sexuality?
I don't even know how to start to answer that because I'm okay, that's essay question. The technology has helped with the way that we have sex, talk about sex, view sex, educate ourselves about sex, and just the gender expressions that you were talking about and all that. Technology has helped us a lot, and I'm actually very, very glad that I live in this age of technology and I did not live in your generation.
Oh,
because I'm sorry.
You know me now. That's sorry when you sorry, so you know me now. But don't worry. Okay.
Because I'm a very expressive person, and technology has helped me express myself in that way. Because I talk about sex a lot on my social media platforms. Like I said, since I enjoy having sex and I research and I also try to help people have better sex, it is through technology. On my platforms, I use I use my platforms to talk about sex, educate people about sex. So I feel like technology has helped in that particular way, but it has an advantage with this, which is that, and a disadvantage, because when I talk about sex that way, people think that they can come on to me that way, like
randomly.
Yes.
Like in the street, somebody go meet you and be like, hey,
Yeah.
I see that you posted, I want to try with you.
And remember when I do my vagina monologue thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And a lot of times.
By the way, we did
moment,
vagina monologues together. And, you know, Doreenn, first of all, she tore it up. And that is for sure. And hopefully we go do them again this year. But yes.
So from that vagina monologue thing, there are men coming up to me. They still remember me. Like, do you look familiar? That was years ago. Do you look familiar? Now you will do that in that thing. So there are disadvantages because they feel like they can come up to you and because they feel like you are that person.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to blame them because it's the society that we live in. It's them thinking that way, woman, they talk about sex, so she's promiscuous, she's always around the place and all that. So that is the very, very hard part and disadvantage of this technology thing. And it does not seem like it's going away.
No.
Because even with the way we they be, with a broaden with horizons, would they be more open, there are people that are being educated. I'm like, okay, I understand this, but you cannot be doing this. I have friends that have stopped because they do it, they educate people too, like I do, but they stopped doing that when they got into a relationship because their boyfriends, partners don't want them to don't want them to do that. Even now, a lot of my friends, or not my friends, my people I know, because I don't want to call them my friends, they don't want me to be doing that. And they say that how person will take you, or this, it will affect you business, or this and that and that. So actually that's something where I'll struggle with on and off when it comes to this. But in the area of personal relationships, I feel like technology has helped. I mean, people can now have sex, they can sext, they can do whatever they want to do with technology. So that's great. That's what I can say.
Well, I mean, there is one point that's a little negative. I mean, we know people can use it as a way to tear people down. People, you can use it to create slander, or to create rumors, or to create homemade sex videos. And that's quite frequent with our even younger than you people who don't really understand the consequences of posting and doing these types of things, or even recording yourself having sex. And I don't know, I feel like technology has come to the point where people will do it even without people's consent sometimes, like record people in sexual acts. And when you're able to school picking them, and you know, they're recording them in bathrooms or whatever during the break, and they're together and all them funny things that they, I mean, I just wanted to know what your thoughts are when it comes to those particular issues.
That just comes back to consent, because it not just happen with younger people.
No.
It happens to grown women too. I was watching the TikTok the other day, and a woman was complaining that it was not in this country, but then A&E partner going out a hotel room, not knowing that the hotel room is bugged, like the video cameras or silent ones
in
around.
the room.
Yes. And her video was on the dark web. You don't know that day.
Wow.
So she consented to being intimate with this person, and not consent to being blown up on the internet without that kind of way. And if not to be other person, not for the ever know in this life. So that is the dark side of technology when it comes to sex. One of the dark sides.
But it also goes along with what you're saying. Like there's a level of invasion of privacy, right?
Yes.
Once, like even when you're saying, oh, that people just come up to you and start be talking to you, like I know. I think also there's a disadvantage socially. Like there's a social disadvantage because your generation lacks some social skills because you are always on behind a device. Whereas speaking to people face to face is a different game, right? It's a different game. There's a lot of people who are really introverts, and they're doing this to express whatever it is. And then when they go out, they can't seem to, you know, be able to like match the fact that, oh, I've reached so many people. So when I go out, people who I don't know, who I might not have any interest in knowing, but who are fans of mine or seen my work and want to talk to me, will still come up to me. And I think that those are things, those are kind of disconnects of this, because people, I've seen it so many times. Like in person, it doesn't match what we see on the internet or on the social media. So, and I think, what it is that people have expectations of you if you're an influencer. If you want to call yourself that, you have to be careful, because you're signing up for that. The same way that celebrities are signing up for that. It is a type of celebrity, even if it's on a smaller scale. It doesn't matter. But once you put yourself out there, you have to be able to prepare enough to say, okay, even though I'm really an introvert, you know, I have to handle these situations in a way where I'm not driving people away or having people unfollow me or say anything else about me, but also protecting my privacy as much as I can. It's like you said, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to find balance.
Yeah.
But I see this all the time, and I feel like everybody's an influencer or wants to be. So and everybody can't be.
Yeah,
that's
true.
the thing.
That's true, yeah.
Just because you're passionate about something, you do your thing, but it's not always going to be on a level that you want it to be, or it can be in different ways, right? So I think that that's something that is part of technology's downsides, is that what happens in real life versus
behind on the internet screens. Okay.
You know.
So how do you view the concept of traditional versus modern relationships, the changes that it has undergone, and how has your generation perceived and adapted to the shifts? And what considerations would you suggest in terms of exploring sex?
Well, I think traditional versus modern relationships. What is a modern relationship? I don't know what the modern relationship really truly looks like nowadays, besides the integration of technology. Because unless we're talking about like polyamory or something like that,
it's always been around.
Which is and even that concept is just a term, right? But like, it's all old. So like, what is a modern relationship? I'm not exactly sure. But what I will say is that there has been a lot of traditions and customs, especially for us Africans, integrated into marriage. Like marriage is a custom, really. It's a custom. It's almost like it's a cultural thing. How we handle marriage and weddings and things like that is all it differs based off of culture. And I think it's not necessarily about what people can fantasize. It should be about, which is like love. You know, at the base of some of the longest relationships we know, there's nothing lovely about it. You know, there's nothing love driven. So people have kids with people who don't have, who they don't love. People share homes with people they don't love. People buy property and do business with people that they don't love. I mean, so I think for me, it's about the newer generation, or, you know, folks understanding, where does my pleasure come in? How does this feed to my soul? How does this feed me? How am I really feeling seen or heard, or how do I get peace from being around a person? And I think it takes time to develop. I think a lot of younger people, like in the 20s and below, you don't know that. In your relationships, you're not going to experience that. You're going to go through the trials and tribulations, and even up to your 30s, of bumping your head and going from another relationship to another relationship, even when you thought it was everything. And partly because you're on a quest to really know what you like and what you want. And you don't really know that at that point. You're trying to get out of under someone's thumb, whether it's your parents or society or whatever, and branch out and express yourself, and, you know. And I think that that's really how the traditional, I feel like everybody goes through these phases. You know, one thing I can talk is like older folks, even older than me, if you believe that, when they tend to get upset with younger people about, hey, you know, why they do this is not a lucky life, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, do you remember, like back then, like, do you remember that you were once, and you also had your moments of, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I wish we would do better to remember, you know, because we all have been there. I mean, we do have different paths, but a lot of it is similar.
Yeah.
And a lot of it can be shared through storytelling, and a lot of it could help make changes if we were open. But that's the traditional part of it, secrecy. And that is the biggest problem, I think, to all of us living a better life. You know, secrecy it can be very damaging, you know, just like with, you know, Bondo society and all those. The reason why they thrive for so long is because of secrecy. All the things that are hidden, all the things that are done in the dark, I mean, molestation and rape and all these things that people go through, I mean, people do not talk about it. Boy Pikine says they get molested. They don't talk about it. I was just at grandma's school the other day doing like a sex talk with them. And, you know, I was talking about, do you know the number one way that I was talking to like 13-year-olds. They're all JSS 3. And, you know, they're all like 13, 14. And I was like, how many people here are virgins? You know, and like, not many people raised their hand. And I was like, do you know you're still children? Like you are 13 and 14 years old. You just got to teenagehood. You are still a child. And, you know, if I were to pull you guys and have a session one by one and ask you how you lost your virginity, to whom you lost your virginity, was it consensual? Was it something you sought after? I believe the majority of you all would say no. And it's wrong. And just like Gal Pekin, we should be protecting y'all too.
Yeah.
And we are failing.
Yeah, we are.
Because not almost every boy Pekin wants to be where they tell you the story of before say where they get sex. It's not big woman.
Yes.
Like I think I would say at least 80% of men, when they talk about that, oh, na mi neighbor, or na this woman, or one lady will be come to me mama. I mean, really, like that is it's painful. It's painful because these are children. Like it's just same way all the other girls. And I mean, we tend to amplify the girls' experience, and I understand why. But boys should not be left behind. And I'm just using that as an example, you know, of saying how secrecy plays into tradition. And that's why tradition lasts for so long. People put it in the vault and say, bring them out only when, you know, don't ask me why. There's no reason why. Tradition is what we make up along the way to adapt as human beings. All of it is made up shit. It's just made up by humans. We make it up and we say this and that. Oh, for rub pa mind pa you pikin and all that. I was like, that's just, what is that? What is that? Who told you? Where did that come from? You know, and like, what? You know, they're like, yes, that's what for do. And who said that? That's what they say. Who are they? And so many people, then we just don't cut and wrap this episode of Years Apart. And it was so good to be on with my younger counterpart, Doreenn. And we began really good conversation. Let us know what you think on all of the platforms, YouTube and Instagram.
I just had an amazing session with Leeann talking about sex on the Years Apart podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow all socials. Thank you.